There have been some new developments in the Arcade City saga. Did they finally get their shit together? Is there an app yet? Also, what's in the news with stories on cannabis, porn, jobs, elections, and Police State USA, and an Ancap App segment on OpenBazaar.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. Coming to you from the state that was the home of the first women's magazine editor in Newport, New Hampshire, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Revolution needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at the Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 50, the Arcade City 2.0 edition, and it's Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016, when at least 1,025 people have been killed by police already this year. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. If you recall, in episode 45 of this show, the gamification of Arcade City edition, I said, quote, I think Arcade City still has a chance, but the only chance it will have is if Chris David steps down and brings in someone to head up the company who can make this happen. I really want to see AC succeed, and I think that that's what it's going to take. You can listen to that full expose episode that I did on Arcade City at thelavaflow.com/45. Well, it seems that someone at Arcade City was listening to me, or at least they were listening to the huge negative reaction that they received in their Reddit AMA back in October. According to Joel Valenzuela, reporting in Cointelegraph, Christopher David resigned his post as mayor of Arcade City and handed the seat to Bernd Lapp, the founder of CryptoCon, a consulting firm that helps to develop cryptocurrency-based business models. In a statement, Chris said, quote, now that Arcade City has attracted a team of experienced developers, project managers, and operations professionals to continue the momentum of what we've built over our first 10 months, it is time for me to transition out of any leadership positions related to the Arcade City core product and network. Apparently, Chris will instead be focusing his attention on a separate service provider called Arcade One that will integrate into the core Arcade City network. There is very little information out right now about this Arcade One, but the website for it will be launching on December 1st at arcadecity.org. What is available is that Arcade One will include some driver profiles and tip jar functions, some social networking functions, and the ability to create email addresses and websites using the arcadecity.org domain. I think I can safely say that it would be a good bet for anybody to stay away from Arcade One as long as Chris David has anything to do with it. Apparently, the new development team for Arcade City has been in contact with Ivan Chen O'Neill, who, if you recall from my previous episode, is the man who started revealing information about Chris David's past and is still owed several $1,000s by Chris David. Chen O'Neill asked for 1% of the ICO sales to be diverted to a victims fund to make whole the victims of Chris David's past frauds. As of now, there hasn't been such a fund set up, but I really can't disagree with this request by Chen O'Neill. Although I don't think the new Arcade City team should be legally or morally responsible for the victims of Christopher David, I do think that setting aside that small amount would go a long way to correcting the wrongs committed by David, and show that the new Arcade City team is ready to put the past completely behind them. And, speaking of the ICO, it looks like the Arcade City token, ARC, sold around $600,000 worth of Ether. This is a much-needed shot in the arm that the development team can hopefully use to get Arcade City off the ground. This is, of course, after Arcade City Christopher David pissed away over $200,000 worth of angel investor money with no discernible benefit, especially not a functioning app. If you recall, the first version of Arcade City with very rudimentary but functional ride-sharing capabilities came out on Valentine's Day of this year. It was subsequently pulled from all app stores shortly after its release, with a promise the next version would come out in, quote, early spring. Of course, that never materialized, so the next slated release of Arcade City was September 1st. While an app did release on September 1st, it was essentially just an app that had a karma rating system in it, and not a bit of other functionality at all, including no ride-sharing. This was, of course, nothing more than a stall tactic designed by Chris David to buy him some time to get a real app developed, something that still hasn't materialized. So, since March 20th was the first day of spring of this year, I'll go ahead and round up to April 1st as early spring. With this being the case, we are now 236 days from the first promised date and 84 days from the second promised date with still no working ride-sharing app. Hopefully, the new 7-member Arcade City Council will actually be able to release a functional ride-sharing application before too long. They already have demo videos up on their arcade.city website showing some basic ride-sharing functionality, which is very promising. They also have what appears to be a very solid development team working on the app now, which is something that has been missing since the inception of Arcade City. It now appears that the future of Arcade City is much better now that Christopher David is no longer the CEO of the company and only holds the non-functional title of, quote, sole founder. My personal outlook of Arcade City has certainly brightened. With these new developments, I don't think it would be fair to hold the current Arcade City team responsible for the wrongs of Christopher David or the negative name that he gave to the brand. In my opinion, we should look at Arcade City as a new company with a brand new team and wish them all the best of luck. They took an important step in removing Christopher David. My only concern is that they haven't completely distanced themselves from him at all. They appear to still be working with Chris David and Arcade One as a service provider for their ecosystem. If I were on the new team at Arcade City, I would completely distance myself from Christopher David as much as I possibly could.
Fuck. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is Liberty. Each week we strive to bring you the best guests in talk radio. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad delivers weekly interviews of noteworthy politicians, experts, and activists. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is bringing the party to the Libertarian Party and launching ideas in your direction. Check us out at JohnnyRocketLaunchpad.com, and you can hear me, Kurt Nelson, and the beautiful Heather Nixon talk about the ideas of liberty. Rock and roll.
Hey there, Liberty lovers. This is Mark Claire of the Lions of Liberty podcast, where we strive to bring you great conversations about the ideas of liberty 3 days a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Check us out at lionsofliberty.com.
This is Chris Spangle, and I am the host of We Are Libertarians, which you can find in iTunes, Google Play, or at wearelibertarians.com. We are a podcast that brings you all of the irreverence that modern politics deserves by examining current events from a libertarian perspective. So please, check us out at wearelibertarians.com.
Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In cannabis news, prior to Election Day 2016, there were only 4 states and D.C. that had legal cannabis, and 24 states plus D.C. that had medical cannabis. That number grew significantly this week. Hell, cannabis won in more states than Hillary Clinton won. The very first state to allow medical cannabis in this country was California in 1996, starting a trend that is still making waves across the country. Now, for the first time, there are a majority of states in the country that have medical cannabis, essentially forcing the hand of the federal government. 4 states were added with this recent election, making the total 28 states plus D.C. That's huge. Pennsylvania, Florida, North Dakota, and even my former home state of Arkansas finally passed the laws in their respective states. But even more importantly, the number of states that passed full-on legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes doubled from 4 to 8. California, Maine, Massachusetts, and Nevada all passed these laws this election. My new home state of New Hampshire is now surrounded by 2 of 3 states with legal recreational cannabis. New Hampshire has no referendum or ballot initiative, so laws all must come out of the legislature. The New Hampshire House has passed decriminalization laws several times, only to be rejected by the Senate each time. With Maine and Massachusetts now having full legalization, I expect decriminalization, if not full legalization, to happen in New Hampshire soon. I would imagine it will be on a bill in front of the House in their next session. Since Maggie Hassan, the former anti-cannabis Democrat governor, has gone to Washington in the Senate, we now have a new governor who supports decriminalization. So it's almost a certainty that it will happen here now. The new laws in Maine make it legal for anyone over the age of 21 to carry up to 2.5 ounces of cannabis and to legally grow up to 6 plants for an individual or commercially with a license from the state. California allows carrying up to 1 ounce and has the same grow regulations as Maine. In Massachusetts, you can have up to 1 ounce outside the home and up to 10 ounces inside the home, along with the ability to grow up to 6 plants. And in Nevada, you can also have up to 1 ounce and grow up to 6 plants for personal use. Now, I don't get how a substance can be legal, yet they can tell you how much you can make and own at once. This is not a moral position that someone can stand on. Can someone tell me how much bologna I can own? Can they then morally tell me how many sandwiches I can make out of that bologna? Of course not. So why can they tell me the same thing about me being able to legally own cannabis, but only so much? And I can only grow so much out of the seeds that I legally own. They can tell you this because they own you. Make no mistake about it. Now, like I said, my former home state of Arkansas did pass a medical marijuana bill on Election Day. But lawmakers in the state are already trying to play games with the new law, seeking to add delays and additional taxes at will. Republican Representative Doug House says he's working on legislation giving agencies until early May rather than early March to adopt rules for medical marijuana. The Republican lawmaker said it would also change the deadline for the state to begin accepting dispensary applications from June 1st to July 1st. Republican Senator Bart Hester says he's looking at legislation to impose an additional tax on medical marijuana, a move that he says would help cut income taxes. And Denver has now become the first city in the country to allow people to use cannabis in bars and restaurants through Proposition 300. The city measure allows bars and restaurants to apply to allow marijuana use. Patrons can use pot inside as long as it isn't smoked, with the possibility of outside smoking areas, though patrons must bring their own cannabis. And finally, a hemp crop was harvested in Virginia for the first time in decades, thanks to relaxations in the law. For the first time since the 1930s, what was once a mainstay crop in Virginia can now be used again to make textiles, rope, paper, animal feed, and food products. In porn news, California's Proposition 60, that would have required porn actors, and I use the term actors lightly here, of course, to wear condoms, has failed by a huge margin. The biggest nanny state in the country finally found a bit of nannying that they didn't want to do. The California porn industry threatened to pack up and leave the state if this proposition passed, which could have been a boon for the economy of New Hampshire, since filming porn is only explicitly legal in California and New Hampshire. Most other states have obscenity laws that either strictly forbid filming adult video or they're incredibly vague on the topic. The reason Prop 60 existed was because apparently 1 in 4 porn actors in California have sexually transmitted diseases, which is in far greater proportions than the general population. But shunning an industry to the underground is not the way to go about fixing that problem. Because believe it or not, there's always going to be uncovered porn being filmed in California. So wouldn't we rather have that happen in the light? And it may be good news for New Hampshire that the porn industry hasn't come here yet. Companies in New Hampshire are already struggling to hire people due to the lowest in the nation's 2.8% unemployment rate in the state. This is great news for people considering moving to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. There are lots of industries where we need more skilled workers. It also means that the average wage in New Hampshire has gone up to try and attract new employees. But there are also lots of low-skill jobs available. The math is simple. There are just more available jobs than there are people able to take those jobs in New Hampshire. So now is the time for you to join the Free State Project and come to New Hampshire and help us achieve liberty in our lifetimes. Check out the Free State Project at freestateproject.org and sign the pledge. In government works news, the number of government workers is now just under 10 million more than those employed in manufacturing in the United States. In October alone, the U.S. lost 9,000 manufacturing jobs while gaining 19,000 jobs in government. There are now over 22 million government employees compared to just over 12 million manufacturing jobs. August 1989 was the month that government workers first passed manufacturing workers, and the lead has slowly grown ever since. The number of government employees in this country exceeds the combined populations of Ohio and Michigan, for fuck's sake. The 22 million government employees in October, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, included over 14 million local government employees, over 5 million state government employees, and nearly 3 million federal government employees. In Libertarian Party news, 39 states retained ballot access for the LP based on the election results 2 weeks ago, including New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, gubernatorial candidate Max Abramson received the needed 4% to retain access to the ballot with around 31,000 votes. This is a huge success for the LP nationally and will save tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars nationally trying to get on the ballot in various states in 2018. In New Hampshire, this is the first time that the LP has retained ballot access in 20 years. While this is great news, I don't see this as some massive libertarian revolution happening in the country. While Gary Johnson and other libertarian candidates did see record numbers this year, so did candidates from other third parties. Jill Stein's increase in vote percentage from 2012 to 2016 was very similar to the vote percentage increase that Gary Johnson received. Hell, Evan McMullin got 20% in Utah. What we saw here was voter disgust with the candidates that the two parties put up for election. This is even more evident in the number of people who chose to stay home instead of go vote. This was the lowest voter turnout since 1996, 20 years ago. Look, I congratulate the LP nationally, and I'm thrilled as the vice chair for the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire that we've retained ballot access and saved thousands of dollars. However, we should be cautious to not take these votes for granted and to assume that we've seen some sort of libertarian surge. I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I also think that we need to take the surge in national LP memberships with a grain of salt as well. I believe that the surge in memberships that we saw after the convention and heading into this election will drop dramatically once their yearly renewals come up. I believe that a large portion of these new memberships were disgruntled Republicans who were hoping to hitch themselves to another party who might give them a chance. After the Johnson gaffes and his low showing in the election, I imagine these memberships will not be renewed. I hope I'm wrong, but I suspect I'm not. I'll be watching, and of course I'll definitely keep you guys updated. In FBI child porn news, it's been revealed that the FBI ran not just one, but 24 dark web child porn websites. As we talked about in episode 29 of this show, the FBI operated the child porn site The Playpen for 2 weeks, allowing over 215,000 people to access 23,000 sexually explicit images and videos of children, including 9,000 files that users could download directly from FBI government servers. Our servers, the servers that we pay for with our tax dollars. This was done in an attempt to track users of the site, which led to 137 people being charged with the crime. Now, according to documents obtained by the ACLU, the FBI actually authorized the takeover of 23 child pornography websites in addition to the Playpen. These 23 sites were run on one computer that the FBI seized and then hosted at a government facility with the full knowledge of the FBI. As Reason's Jacob Sullum noted, quote, "The government's position is that children are re-victimized every time images of their sexual abuse are viewed or shared, which is one of the main rationales for punishing mere possession of child pornography, not just those who make or distribute or profit from it. Under federal law, distributing a sexually explicit image of a child comes with a mandatory minimum prison sentence of 5 years and a possible 20 years. Quote, if such actions merit criminal prosecution because they are inherently harmful, Sullum points out, then there is no logical reason why the federal agents who ran the Playpen should escape the penalties they want to impose on the people who visited the site. Absolutely. In a news update, a California judge on Wednesday said he was likely to dismiss criminal pimping charges against the chief executive and controlling shareholder of Backpage.com, ruling that a federal immunity shield for tech companies protected them from prosecution for content posted by third parties. Backpage, the second largest U.S. online classified ads after Craigslist, has faced scrutiny from the U.S. Senate as well as civil lawsuits over allegations that the site facilitates sex trafficking, especially of children. The controversy over Backpage.com is at the center of a debate over how much liability tech companies should face for user-generated content posted on their platforms. Under the Federal Communications Decency Act, the defendants argued that they should not be prosecuted for content posted by third parties. In a tentative ruling, Sacramento County Superior Court Judge Michael Bowman agreed, saying Congress passed the Communications Decency Act to protect free speech online. Quote, Congress has spoken on this matter, and it's for Congress, not this court, to revisit, Bowman wrote. During a later hearing, the judge said the AG's office could file additional briefs on the issue and that he would make a final ruling by December 9th. In Killer Cop news, the Minnesota cop who shot and killed Philando Castile has been charged with manslaughter. St. Anthony police officer Geronimo Yanez was also charged with 2 felony counts of dangerous discharge of a gun, which endangered the lives of Castile's girlfriend and her 4-year-old daughter sitting in the back seat of the car. Ramsey County Attorney John Choey announced the charges in a press conference, saying that the, quote, use of deadly force by Officer Yanez was not justified and that it is not enough to express subjective fear of death or great bodily harm. Police initially said that they pulled Castile over for a broken taillight on July 6, 2016, but an audio recording later proved that the cop pulled him over because he had a, quote, wide-set nose, which apparently matched the description of an armed robber. But Castile, an elementary school worker who had a concealed weapons permit, was not a felon. He was just a man who had been stopped by police 52 times for minor traffic infractions, which raised allegations that he had been racially profiled on a pretty regular basis. Yanez faces a maximum sentence of 10 years for the manslaughter charge, and he is the very first Minnesota cop since 2000 out of more than 150 shooting deaths to be criminally charged. In Police State USA news, Chinese police kill less people than American police each year, by a huge margin. In a country that has 4 times the population of the U.S., Chinese police in 2014 only killed 12 people. In 2015, they killed 50. By comparison, U.S. police killed around 1,200 in 2015. And even using the highest estimates of 4 million in prison, China also has an incarceration percentage about half of what we have here in the United States. Most estimates are actually closer to 2 million in prison in China, but even taking that highest estimate, adjusted for population, China would have to incarcerate 8.8 million people and kill 4,800 people just to equal the U.S. rate. Welcome to Police State USA. We hope you enjoy your stay. In What the Actual Fuck news, after making a murderer's Brendan Dassey's conviction for the 2005 murder of Teresa Hallback was overturned in August by a federal judge exonerating Dassey, less than 48 hours after he was set to be released, he was ordered to remain in prison pending the state's appeal of the exoneration. Dassey's conviction was tossed out based on the judge's, quote, significant doubts about the reliability of Dassey's confession that was later recanted and claimed by Dassey to be coerced by police. This state appeal could take years while Dassey sits behind bars. Now that's some bullshit. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Ancap Apps.
We talked about agorism in the last episode of this show, and now I have an Ancap app that will help you live an agorist lifestyle. It's called OpenBazaar, and it's an open source project to create a decentralized network for peer-to-peer commerce online using Bitcoin that has no fees and no restrictions. Right now, online commerce means using centralized services. eBay, Amazon, and other big companies have restricted policies such as you can't buy and sell guns, and they charge fees for listing and selling goods. They only accept forms of payment that cost both buyers and sellers money, such as credit cards or PayPal. They require lots of personal information, which can lead to it being stolen or even sold to others. Buyers and sellers aren't always free to exchange goods and services with each other, as companies restrict entire categories of trade. OpenBazaar is a different approach to online commerce. It puts the power back in the user's hands. Instead of buyers and sellers going through a centralized service, OpenBazaar connects them directly. Because there's no one in the middle of your transaction, there are no fees, no restrictions, no accounts to create, and you only reveal the personal information that you choose. But how does it work? Let's say that you're looking to sell your old laptop. Using the OpenBazaar client, a program that you download, you create a new listing on your computer with details, just like you would on any e-commerce site. When you publish that listing, it's then sent out to the distributed peer-to-peer network of other people using OpenBazaar. Anyone who searches for the keywords that you've used, Dell, laptop, electronics, etc., will find your listing. If you both agree to a price, the client then creates a contract between you both with your digital signatures and sends it to a third party called a moderator. These moderators are also folks on the OpenBazaar network. They could be your neighbor or someone across the world who the buyer and seller trust in case something goes wrong. The third party witnesses the contract and creates a multi-signature Bitcoin account that requires 2 or 3 people to agree before the Bitcoin can be released. The buyer then sends the agreed-upon amount to the multi-sig address. You get a notification saying the buyer has sent the funds, and you ship the laptop to them and mark that it's been shipped. The buyer receives it a few days later, and they mark it received, which releases the fund from multi-sig to you. You've got your Bitcoin, the buyer got the laptop, no fees paid, no one stopped your trade, and everybody's happy. OpenBazaar is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and version 1.1.9 is out right now at openbazaar.org. If you've got something to sell, or if you want to buy something without additional fees and government regulation and oversight, then OpenBazaar is for you. Go check it out at openbazaar.org. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite Catan player, Jessica, for her help with the show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/50. I don't have any new iTunes reviews this week. I sure could use some more. iTunes steers people to this podcast based on the number of subscribers and the number of positive reviews. So every positive review that you give me helps get this show in front of more people. Go to thelavaflow.com/iTunes today to give me a rating and a review. I've had yet another increase in donations this week. Casey pledged $5 per episode using Patreon. That puts me now closer than I've ever been to my next goal. I'm now at $169.50 per episode in donations, or 67.8% towards my next goal of bringing you 30 minutes of the Lava Flow every week. Thank you so much, Casey. You rock. Also, Patrick used my affiliate link for Coinbase and got both he and I a free $10 in Bitcoin. Thanks, Patrick. If you want $10 in free Bitcoin and you want to help this show at the same time, go to thelavaflow.com/Coinbase today and sign up for a new account and buy at least $100 in Bitcoin, and we both get free money. And now it's time to talk about my November contest again, and this is one that everyone can get into. I need more reviews on Stitcher, since very few people actually review on Stitcher, it seems. Currently, I only have a few reviews on that platform, and the best part is that anyone with an internet browser can review on Stitcher, so there's no need to create an account or anything. If you go to thelavaflow.com/Stitcher today, you can scroll down to the bottom of the page and click Write a Review and leave me one. It's that simple. Since there are so few reviews already on Stitcher, I'm only going to have a single prize pack this time. The prize pack is the same as last time, though, an exclusive The Lava Flow Contest Winner t-shirt, a Lava Flow tote bag, and a copy of one of my favorite libertarian books signed by the author. So go to thelavaflow.com/Stitcher today and leave me a rating and a review. All reviews on Stitcher that are in before midnight on November 30th will be entered to win the prize pack. The winners will be announced on this show on December 6th. Good luck. And finally, if you want more of the Lava Flow, exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. I really want to be able to bring you more content soon, So make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.